Hello, one, and hello, all. RT Bear here, Hack Shack Studios, and we got a show. We got a show for you today. We're going to do a hacks chat, and we're going to have Charlize London, and she's going to talk up her new book. She does these books about Charlie Chaplin, and very, 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 very interesting. A terrific person. And we're going to get into that. But I thought since she's not here yet, we would hang out a little bit. And if there's anybody in the chat, show me a sign of life, and we can just talk. We can just chat for a little bit. Just do a hacks chat with the chat. Yeah. I don't know, man. It's been a while since I've done this. I think all last week I didn't live stream at all. So no pontificators, no professionals. I think I did the King show last Monday, but that was the exception. So I've been working really, really hard on this book right here. So all my time has been going into this. So I just realized my camera is bouncing. Let me set my camera real quick. So camera control, click those off, and then we should be fine. Yes. So as always, you guys, sign of life is always welcome in the chat. We got Will. Will is waiting for what? I'm not sure. I got in quick, I think. So yeah, you guys, it's been quite a week. We had some friends from California. They're more Pamela's friends than mine, but they came from California and they hung out with us for 5 days. And they're the kind of guests that are good guests. They're not the kind of guests that you can't wait for them to leave. So we had a real good time. But between that and just work, I really haven't had time to stream. So I'm back. And wait a minute. I see somebody lurking in the back there. Let's get Charlize in. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. What time is it there?
17:55.
17:55. What is that?
Yeah. 5 to 6.
Oh, okay.
5 to 6.
So you already put your work day in?
Yes, I'm done. I'm home. So I'm home having a cup of tea.
That's good. That's good. So you're a school teacher, right?
Mm-hmm. History teacher.
Oh, there you go. Hey, speaking of history, I know that you're into Charlie Chaplin. I just found out that, and you probably already know this, that the template for Mickey Mouse was Charlie Chaplin. Did you know that?
I'd heard of that before. Yeah, and also the Jim Henson Studios now was the Charlie Chaplin Studios, which is why there's a big bronze Kermit the Frog dressed as Charlie Chaplin on the top.
Oh yeah. They bought the old studio. Yeah. I saw that as well. So that's pretty cool. So apparently, people in Hollywood really like Charlie Chaplin.
Apparently so. Apparently so.
Apparently he was a big deal at one time. Who knew, right?
Yeah, just a little bit of one. Just a little bit.
This is small. So you've been doing good? The campaign's going well?
Yeah, I think we hit 17K today, which is really good. Because just like you, I found it really hard to stream. So I'm going to be ramping that up sort of in the next couple of days. But, considering I've only been on a couple of streams and a lot of the backers as well have been people that they backed book 1 and they've come back for book 2. It's doing amazingly when you take those things into consideration. So, yeah, I've definitely got to get a bit more on the campaign trail. But thank you to everybody who has backed so far, because we're so close now. We're on track for the 20K stretch goal, which, considering it's only been open for just over a week, is pretty impressive.
Is 20K your first stretch goal?
No, 15 was the first one, and everyone got a 6 a.m. sticker. And the second one is going to be everybody's getting a really beautiful bookmark where one side's been designed by Peter Gilmore and the other side has been designed by Mickey, who's the artist for the interior of the book.
So that's the same artist that did volume 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have him, I'm sure, in some kind of ironclad contract, right? So you don't lose that guy.
Well, you know what's really funny is that I don't really.
Oh no.
He's so enthusiastic to come back and do it. I mean, it's like I always, I'm always trying to be really careful with, people. You hear such horror stories about artists and things and whatever. But you know what? When we was working on book one, when we really thought we was going to get it finished in 6 months, it wasn't a massive issue for other work for him. But he's got a big project he does every year with another company, and it's an ongoing thing. And when he was so unsure, he was like what was going on with how contracts could be overlapping. He actually came to me and said, I'm willing to drop this contract I have every year for Charlie's London because this is the obligation and I want to make sure I get it done. And then I was like, no, this is something you do every year. That's not fair. And he went back to them. And when he explained it was for the Charlie Chaplin estate, they were like, that's fine. We'll postpone it by 2 months, which was incredible. And then he got obviously my book done and then that moved on. But it was from that point, I was like, he's got such good work ethic and he is so good at, doing exactly what was morally the right thing, be committed to the first project, that I was like, this guy's for keeps and I don't ever want to let him go.
I'll tell you, Charlie's like this kind of chemistry like you have with this book is very, very rare. Like where you get a writer and an artist like that are in sync like this. When I saw those pages for the first time, I was just like, this is magic, because like I said, I mean, it doesn't happen very often. I mean, it's probably happened in my career just a handful of times. So this is your first comic, right?
Yeah, I know. And you know what? It's so funny. Like, it's an ongoing joke with me and Billy Tucci because he goes to me, are you sure you've never done this before? And I'm like, I have never done this before. But it's true. Mickey, I send him pages. I send him ideas and he sends me back pages and I say to him, you've literally just drawn what's in my head. Like, it's really crazy the way that he can do that. Right. And, and people say to me, oh, are you a bit worried about somebody else like pinching him? Or are you quite like, and I'm like, if Mickey wants to fit in a cover here, a poster here for somebody else in CG or outside of CG, and it doesn't interfere with the dates on my campaign, he can knock himself out because that's his business and I trust him and I know he's going to deliver. So I really I don't understand. Like, some people get really funny about that. Oh, I don't want my artist working with someone else. If they're good working people, they'll do what they should do. That's what you have to be careful with.
Yeah, you're still very idealistic, so that's good. You haven't been beat up yet, so you don't have that paranoid gene yet. Yeah, because I have that. That's very true. Yeah, it is innate in my DNA now. I'm gonna take this. This is Spears Car. He has a question. Hey there, Art. Can you tell us what it was like when talkies first came on the scene? Did that blow everyone's minds? I'll tell you, hell yeah, man. When I saw Steamboat Willie for the first time, I was like, wow, cartoons have sound. That's amazing.
I've got to ask you because I've recently discovered this. I don't know how I didn't know it didn't exist. Have you ever watched Private Snafu?
No.
Private Snafu, they look like they were like the first incarnation of almost like a Bugs Bunny character, but they were made in 1942 and they are essentially American war cartoons. Like, you can see like a little bit of Sergeant Bilko in them as well. And
that sounds familiar though. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure if you saw it, they're about 2 to 4 minutes long each. And they say it stands for situation normal, all fouled up, but we know the F stands for something else because it's actually, but they are really funny, but they are very, very much your Sergeant Bilko, very like the Chaplin film Shoulder Arms. They're very funny, but they're only like between 2 and 5 minutes. But I discovered them on a history channel we've got that you can watch online. And I was like, oh, these are hilarious. But they're all talky cartoons, but they're really, really good. I'm sure someone in the chat, maybe Spirit Scar, has seen them, but they are good. Look them up on YouTube.
Yeah, I was also, just speaking of Charlie Chaplin, I was watching a documentary. Oh, what is it? it's Frank and Ollie. Is that like the Disney animators? And there's a documentary. And my wife usually doesn't watch these things with me, but she was captivated by these guys. And they're older now. They're like semi-retired. They've passed away since the documentary. But they were talking about a big influence on their animation and just bringing characters to life, because that's what they were really known for, is just like really bringing like these drawings to life and really animating life into these drawings. And it was Charlie Chaplin. And so it was the one of the episodes that they said really had impact was the one with the blind girl.
Oh, City Lights.
Yeah. And they played a clip from it. It's hilarious when she throws the water in his face. It's funny, but it's a little it's not sad. I don't know what the word for it is, but
melancholy. I think you'd say it was a bit melancholy. City Lights.
Melancholy, yeah. But just great stuff. Was Chaplin also the one? Was there that one setup? Like he was a cinematographer. Like he actually like really was one of the first like effects guys too. I think it's like he's on skates or something. He's being pushed to the edge of a railing, and then there's like he would have fell down this like flight of stairs or whatever it was. And I forget how there was a painting or something there. And so it fooled the eye that there was actually like depth to it and they would have fell down. I've seen the camera set up, but I don't remember it actually. But that guy was, go ahead.
From modern times. And they painted on glass plates. So then they positioned the camera in a way which actually made him look like he was very close to that hole. Because he did try to do those sorts of stunts when he made the circus, but he broke, I can't remember if it was his arm or his leg. He did actually break a bone, which he'd never done before. But when he never spoke about that in his book, like he just completely cuts the circus out because so much really terrible stuff was going on in his private life at the time that he almost like blocks it out. But I think, and so do a couple of other historians, that the reason that he wasn't quite on it and the reason he actually broke whether his arm or his leg was because his mind was so like not on what he was doing because he was trying to just forget everything. But the other one that famously did that was Harold Lloyd was the only of the three. Harold Lloyd was like, I always called him the Spice Girls of the silent film era. And what I mean by that is he was manufactured, where the other two.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, they didn't. He didn't write his own stunts, write his own scripts. I think he did a lot of his own stunts, but he wasn't like Keaton and Chaplin, where they were with everything all the time. And that's reflective on the fact that a film that he was working on, there was meant to be a stunt with a grenade, and he actually didn't. He hadn't been practicing with the grenade, and he didn't throw it in time. It was a live grenade back then, before they really used anything that was like the pyrotechnics, and he blew these two fingers off. And
I didn't know that. Holy shit.
He blew, and so for many later years, you see him wearing a glove that's either skin coloured, because it's still black and white, it's very easy to cover that up, or wearing gloves because he had prosthetic like fingers into the glove. And Chaplin, only time he had an injury was when he had like something other stuff going on. And then Buster Keaton was.
Well, wait. I always thought that Harold Lloyd was more of a stunt man than anything. Like he seemed like he was really like pushing the boundaries and setting an example for like stunt guys, because some of that stuff is it's real, right? Like he's actually on those buildings. He's actually doing those things like a stunt man would do.
Well, I think. I'm not the biggest Harold Lloyd fan. I know the odd thing about him, but I think it was it Safety Last? That seems to ring a bell. I'm sure if Spirit Scars in the chat will definitely correct me. When he's hanging off the clock.
Yeah.
He wasn't really hanging off a clock. He was on tiptoes, holding on to the clock. If you actually see the zoomed out picture, he's on a ledge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, So it's but he was entertaining, and he was put up to be the alternative to Keaton and Chaplin, which was no, we see that all the time. But the interesting thing with the three of them was Buster Keaton was going for a divorce. He was an alcoholic. His wife had taken his kids away, and when he made and again, no, I can't remember the name of the film now. It's just gone off my top of my head. But when he made one of his most famous films where the building falls on him, all he'd done was put a mark on the floor, and he was planning on standing just on that spot, and then he'd positioned it by working it all out, and the window was meant to fall. The building was meant to fall, and then he was meant to be stood right between the window. Now, anything could have gone wrong. Someone could have kicked the dirt and knocked the cross on another side. The wind could have blown it a bit. But because he was because he was going through so much personal rubbish, he even said later on, he didn't care if he lived or died. He went ahead and just did it. And it's one of the greatest cinema.
I always thought that would be easy to set up, right? I mean, you build the wall and it's going to fall. So then bring it down and then outline where the window or where the space was going to be. And then just put the wall back up, and then it would pretty much fall within, probably a foot or two in that general area. And I was always like, it didn't seem like a big deal to me.
He said years later that everybody on the crew were like, we're a bit worried about doing this, and it was literally because it was his mind. He didn't have the concept of it being dangerous.
There's one guy that, and I think it was in the silent era, and I think it was Lon Chaney that did the stunt in Phantom of the Opera, that is a great movie. The silent version. It is a fantastic movie, and he's on this carriage and these horse-drawn carriage, and he's like and he comes around a corner, and that thing flips over, and he just kind of leaps out of it. And I heard that was actually Lon Chaney that was the guy that was catapulted from that carriage. And man, it's so visceral. It looks real because it is real. It's not fabricated. It's not a stunt guy. It's not, all that kind of stuff. And like movies now, they do all these cuts, they cut away and they edit and things like that. It's one shot, man. You can clearly see that stage coming around. It flips over and the guy, goes flying off of it. Those guys are badass, man.
I know, and it's like when Buster Keaton made The General. He had a whole train. He got a whole train in this film, and it was like, you've just gone and got a whole bloody train. Not only comedy though, like filmmakers like I can't remember the director's name now, but he made The Passion of Joan of Arc. The actor who starred in that film never acted again because the actual filming that film was so traumatic to her because of what they put her through, including the burning scene when Joan of Arc was being burnt. She was like, she traumatized. Never did it. I saw that years ago. They were actually were playing it in a monastery in Italy and the music that they were playing it with was an actual church organ, and it was really creepy, but at the same time really overpowering as well. And I can understand because they shaved her hair off and they put her. I don't think I would have acted again if I'd had to go through that.
Oh, there's a Spirits car. I was just going to bring this up too. That Georges Méliès. Oh my gosh, you talk about just a groundbreaking filmmaker in that time as well. Just as far as special effects, things like that. And I don't think he got his praise in his lifetime, or maybe it was towards the end of his lifetime. I heard that he actually physically burned a lot of his own movies and stuff like that because he was just a frustrated artist, there's a movie, what the hell is it called, that kind of has him as a backdrop. It's a kids movie. What the hell? in the chat will know.
I have seen it.
That movie is really good. What the hell is it called?
I've got to look that up now because it's going to
this little orphan kid, and he lives in a train. Hugo. Yes, thank you. Hugo.
Yeah, that is movie, really, really good.
That movie is so freaking good. And it kind of has that George Malaise in the backdrop, and you don't realize it's him. And then they kind of unfold it slowly, and then the automatons and all that kind of magician stuff, and it's just fantastic. I love all those early filmmakers, just all those influences, and I mean, they were just like, let's try this, let's do this. I mean, that's how I feel like when I'm drawing, like we're writing these stories, we're just creating for creating sake, right? It's not mandated on a like corporation. I mean, I've 40 years in the working in comics. It's just like very compartmentalized, very like do this specific thing, and it's nothing like now. Like I'm just like, I'm interested in this, so then I can look it up and I can bring that into my comic, and just all kinds of like cool stuff. So I feel more like just like those early filmmakers, because comics to me is like filmmaking. We're bringing all those influences and all of our likes and things like that into these books that we're doing. And I think in the long run, it's going to show, it's going to be more impressive, and people are going to get more out of it because we're not faking it. You know what I mean? These are things that we're really interested in.
Well, there's an unfinished Chaplin film. It's called The Freak. And it was meant to be the story of this young girl who suddenly gets wings. And the original concept art was done when he was still alive. And the girl that was going to play the freak was his daughter, Victoria. And the wings were made and everything. The wings are actually in his museum in Switzerland. I've seen them. And, it wasn't ever a thing that I could have ever done. When I launched the first book, but now the first book did so well, and the second book, is on course to do well too. The thing that I really want to crowdfund in the future, and I really, really want to see if it's possible that we can get this concept to life, is I really want to. The script exists, concept pictures exist. I want to turn that film into a graphic novel.
Oh man, that would be so cool. Yeah, I just got like the hairs raised on my arms. Like, yeah, that's when it's a good idea. Yeah,
I just think it's perfect. Like I said, the script exists. There's been some really great historians that have actually worked on books about the concept and about the making. I don't see why it wouldn't be possible. It just depends if there's any licensing connected with that, because there's so many different things that the Chaplins are involved with licensing wise. And because originally last year the year before when we brought out the first book, we was going to have a breakaway story to do with Charlie and the Kid. And I put the concept to the Chaplins, and originally they were really on top of it. And then they came back to us and said, you can't do it because the French Postal Service are doing a collection of stamps about the kid. So because of product overlap and stuff, you can't do it. And their contract pre-existed mine. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, fair enough. So then we didn't do it. But that's another thing. They're very, very good at looking after his estate. They understand that the only way to keep his story alive is to be able to not be too precious with the license, and actually say, yeah, okay, yeah, this can come out and this can come out and this can come out, as long as it doesn't overlap with another product at the same time. So, for example, when I brought my book out, they were very, very specific about Indiegogo. And I didn't really understand why at that time. I mean, I was still very naive to all this stuff. I just thought it was a preferred platform for them for crowdfunding. And that was, it could have even been as simple as they'd heard of that one and that was it.
Right.
But it wasn't. It turned out, and I only found this out later, that there was another Charlie Chaplin comic, but it wasn't a true story. It was called, I think it was called The Tramp and the Dictator or something like that. And it was literally Charlie Chaplin's tramp fights Hitler. That was the concept of it. So I just thought, it's something else they've put the license to. Went through the Kickstarter campaign and actually found there was nowhere where there was an official little tramp signature like on my stuff. So then I asked the estate later and they went, it's not licensed, and we're going through several things about this particular comic. And then it transpired the reason that they wanted me on Indiegogo is because that's on Kickstarter, and they wanted us on two totally different platforms, so there was no confusion which one was official and which one wasn't.
Right.
So and that kind of felt really good as well, because, you know, at the end of the day, I've heard it all before, you know, being over here in CG, how the hell did she get this licensed product, all this stuff, da, da, da. Well, that's them saying, we want you over here on a platform that we recognize, and we don't recognize stuff on Kickstarter. So to me, that was just another win, and I was really proud of that. I was really happy with that as well.
Yeah, that really fell into place. Well, let's show some of the campaigns so people will have context to everything that we're talking about. So this is your second campaign. So why don't you explain a little bit about this? And are these kind of one and dones, or are these serialized, like the first volume and then this version here?
So the first one's completely done. That's obviously the one that people have already got, which you can still back on this campaign. We made sure that we brought it back the second time around for anyone that missed it. But the second book is about 5-6 pages in now. I think Mickey is done, which I do still have to add a couple of them onto the campaign. Actually, I think they're working on being.
But is it a continuation of the same story, or are these like one and dones? Like you can read the first book and then the second separately and.
Well, this is the really unique thing about this story. You can pick it up and put it down at different eras of his life that interest you because of the way that we've written it. So book 1 can be a standalone story. Book 2 could equally be a standalone story because of the way we've started it and we've ended it.
Oh, so, very good. Yeah.
So, and the reason that was originally done was because I didn't know how successful the first one would be. So I thought, right, I'm going to do this as a standalone story. And if it's not as successful as I hope it will be, it's a standalone crowdfund. If it is successful, we can bring it back for book 2. And so that's the way that book 1 ends, with them going into the theatre for the premiere of Limelight. And you've seen the whole of like how he ended up at that point when he was younger. The second one is looking at his life from 1921 to 1941. So the second one is, and this is why I say you can pick it up, put it down. The second one's all these major films. So you've got the Gold Rush, you've got City Lights, you've got Modern Times, you've got The Circus, you've got The Great Dictator, and these are all going to be in this book. So if his actual career and you know, the start of the Second World War is your thing, you don't really need to read book 1. But if you want the background and how he ended up there, I recommend you do. So this is the other fantastic thing about this book is it ends with the speech from the Great Dictator. And we didn't even have to get the separate license for that, which normally the speech from the Great Dictator has its own license. We didn't even have to apply for it. The chaplains let us have it because it was included in the fact that this is a historical graphic novel. So that was another thing in how they were. They've been exceptionally gracious to us, actually. So it's definitely going to stick on the same theme. The idea that the London of his youth is pretty much the backdrop. And the reason he made the decisions that he did was because of the way that London and his home life influenced him. And the fact that when he was, you know, when war is declared and all this stuff, he is in America. Both wars he was in America. That did put people's back up a little bit because he was British. There was all these false stories that he refused to fight in the First World War. To this day, still people believe it, which it wasn't true. And I think there was definitely an element of him where he was watching his homeland burn in the Blitz, and there was very little he could do about it. And that's really, if you scroll back up, Art, that's Graham's cover, that one there, which is coloured by Gabe. That is like how I told Graham the concept, and Graham came up with that. And the original is black and white. Gabe coloured it to give like an added dimension to something different. But this is what Graham sent to me. And when he sent it to me, I was like bowled over. He'd done exactly what I had in my mind. The idea that one part is the film set and the other part is like London burning and the tramp at the front. It was, yeah, it's absolutely phenomenal, and I love it so much. I love both versions.
It's so weird, man. People bitch about things today. I mean, this was real, you
Mm,
know, like just crazy stuff going on, and real diversity versus the manufactured stuff today.
hmm
So was he able to go back, or did he just kind of stay in the States when the war, during the wartime?
He was back in London in 31, which is where he actually. There's a very famous picture of him with Winston Churchill, who they were friends, by the way. That was another thing people don't know. They were actually friends, and I know that they corresponded during the war. Chaplin never came back because it was dangerous to cross on boat or by plane. Many famous people and obviously ordinary people did die trying to cross the Atlantic at this time. I
Right.
mean, the most famous person, of course, is Glenn Miller. Yeah,
Yeah.
wasn't he? Yeah, he was shot down. They thought he was. I'm pretty sure they thought he was. They don't even know who shot him down. I think they think that he might have been shot down by like our own forces, thinking he was in an unmarked Nazi plane. But there's a real mystery about how he died. I know that, but you've got loads of different people that has happened to. So I think there was a genuine concern to come back. And I know that he always felt guilty for that, because then he did tour later on. I think he comes back in 21, 31 and 52. And in 52 is where the book starts, like book one started. And there was with him, he was really worried about coming back to London because he was scared that people were there was going to be backlash. And there wasn't. In fact, The Great Dictator was better received in London, bear in mind bombs were going off when it was released, than it was in America, and America had not yet entered the war. But this is where the weird, like, McCarthyism thing kicks in with him. Apparently, one of the first times that he became a real figure of interest was when he made The Great Dictator, and the speech. Apparently, McCarthy thought that the speech was very socialist, and I still read that speech this day and go, "How?" I don't understand. Don't get me wrong. I do understand there were silly things that he did during a time when there was a very heightened emotional state about communism. And I think he could have read the room a bit better. But I equally don't think he was a communist.
No, no.
So, and this is the cover that Mickey, my artist, has done.
Right. I want to ask you, because I know that Disney in the war times, their studio did very, very poorly. And I think it's because, one, I don't think they had great distribution in the European countries.
Mm.
And also, I think there were like the funds were held, like profits and stuff, till after the war. So the money wasn't dispersed back. So, was Charlie Chaplin making movies during that time, and did he experience any of that type of like financial hardships?
He didn't. He wasn't making films much during the war.
Okay.
I think he. I think 37, then 41. I think then 47. So I think there was a period where he wasn't making films, because all of the pretty much most of the film houses and the big studios were making war propaganda films.
Yeah,
And
even Disney did the same, but I think some of their features were either almost done or close to being done, and either they weren't released or they were released there, but they just didn't. They didn't release the funds, so it's pretty. Oh, go ahead.
Interestingly, Jonas, is it Olsen said in the chat, is his love for 16-year-old girls mentioned it? I'm not going to shy. Anyone that read book one knows I don't shy away from where Chaplin is not perfect. There is a lot of misconception about this idea about him with young women. For example, his first wife, Mildred Harris, which I do talk about, which was in book one. She was 16 going on 17. He was in his 20s. They started having a relationship. She was sure she was pregnant. He married her. She wasn't. Then she did become pregnant. They had a child that actually died. And then because he was trying to do the right thing, and then the marriage crumbled, they didn't have anything in common. It was an attraction. His second wife, Lita Gray, which is where pretty much most of the drama comes from, he first met her when she was 12, but he didn't know she was 12. He was told she was 16 when she was actually in the kid. He then hires her years later to be in the Gold Rush originally. And again, he had a horrible thing with his leading ladies that he did have relationships with pretty much everyone. And she got pregnant. Her mum went, you've got to marry her or we're going to do you for statutory rape. He said, how can you do me for statutory rape? She's 18. She went, no, she's not. She's 15. So he had to take her to Mexico to marry her because it was legal to get married at 15. Otherwise, he would have faced prosecution. Now, there's actual documentation exists that proves that he didn't know her age, by the way, because they fabricated her birth certificate when she signed her original contract with First National, and he didn't even pursue that with like the fact that they'd faked documents. He didn't even bother to go down that road. Interestingly, with him, he never even denied paternity on any of the women, like what happened with the women, which was so easy to do because there was no such thing as DNA. Years later, a woman by the Joan Barry, she actually said that she was pregnant by him. She wasn't. She'd never even met him. She was absolutely obsessed with him. Went to court. He lost, even though they'd done DNA testing. The DNA testing come back, he wasn't the father. But California didn't recognise DNA testing, so they made him pay paternity till the child was 18. And even though he knew he wasn't the father, he just actually carried on paying it. And years later, people said to him, why did you do that? And he said, I'll tell you why I did that. Her mother, because it was a girl that was born, her mother had mental health problems. And without the money I would be providing, that child would have ended up on the street. And when you read that he actually said that, you realise that he's thinking of himself because his mother had mental health problems. And without the money provided by his older brother, Sidney, he would have ended up on the street. So it's really interesting. But I get that a lot about him, was he apparently into...
You know what? Like these people that get hung up on this, like these details, I mean, there are some things that are bad and you can't forgive. But, like these were different times, different situations. And I hate when people like armchair, like judge things like from where they're at now, looking back, 50, 70, 90, years, 100 years, and then judging it like so harshly. It's like there is an evolution. There are things that people don't do today that some of these things were standard practices. And like, I don't know, like, rock and roll, those guys were like, underage. I mean, they were even writing songs about like she's only 17, and what was it, Jerry Lee Lewis, and then even
I
Elvis.
saw her standing there. She was only 17. You know what I mean? It was. I understand. But the thing is,
that's a Beatles song, right?
That's a Beatles song. I saw her standing.
Yeah. So, and you know what I mean? I mean, these things were understood when he says, you know what I mean? I mean, you know what I mean? These things happen.
Spirit Scar says in olden times, girls used to be married off right after puberty, and it's true. Like I've read documents from Tudor times where the two fathers of households conversing about marrying off their 10 and 11-year-olds, and their justifications for these two getting married is, and I've read this and I can't believe this is a saying, one father says to the other, the marriage can go ahead now because basically she's going through puberty, and the phrase he uses, she's old enough to bleed, therefore she's old enough to seed. And that was I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that is justification for women,
right,
but also as well, Chaplin's third wife.
But just to back up, these things were also financial concerns for the parents, for the father. You know what I mean? Like wasn't there also trade sometimes? There'd be like livestock for like daughters and stuff. Like, well, what do you bring? You know, I got a pig and a whatever. You know, yeah, it's just a completely different time. And we can say, yeah, it doesn't sound right or it sounds unfair now. But you know what? I mean, things are what they were. And I'm sure, you know, 70 years from now, they're going to look back at things, you know, stuff that we thought was normal. They're going to look back and go, well, you know what?
Yeah, well,
they were really messed up.
Well, this is the thing. And also the other thing that sort of completely breaks apart this idea of Chaplin and young girls is that Paulette Goddard, his third wife, was 24 when they got together. And when they split up, he was single for about, I think it was about 2 years. Then he met Una O'Neill. She was 18, he was 54. It did cause a massive scandal. However, he married Una, and he always said the reason why they stayed together is she was really old for her years. So if he was into young girls, he wouldn't want a woman that was massively mature in her mind. He said they could converse, they had intellectual conversations, they had 8 children together, so things were obviously working in that department.
Right.
And they never split up. They stayed together till the day he died. They were married for over 30 years. And just that alone, and there's never any stories of him being unfaithful to Una at all, nothing at all. And he was a very much a ladies' man when he was younger. I mean, he's rumored to have slept with over 1,000 women, and one of them was Louise Brooks. And when she apparently brought out her autobiography, people in Hollywood were scared, because they're like, oh my God, my wife's now going to find out I've slept with her.
Right,
and Chaplin was like, yeah, all right, well, bring it out, because everybody knows I've slept with her. He just didn't care.
I think sometimes, like, if you're very matter of fact about that stuff too, it can kind of like you know, just slow things down, or like you know, throw people off. Because and also I was just thinking, like, as you were talking, like that stuff still kind of exists today, but it's a little bit more like I don't know. It's like Amber Heard is half of Johnny Depp's age. You know what I mean? Like there's still these ideas are still going on where the older guy is trading up, you know, for a younger woman. You know, so these ideas are still at play. It's just they're not, you know, 15, 16, 17.
And Jonas has said, I don't care, but it's still a bit. And he's put, and I agree. Look, if I was Chaplin's agent back then, or his older brother, because his older brother was agent, I would have gone, mate, what do you think you're doing? Like, because the thing is, just like that happens now, the women are not blameless. They home in on these men, because now don't tell me that they didn't know that Chaplin had a thing for his leading ladies. Her parents, Lita Gray's parents. Don't tell me they didn't know. Don't tell me they didn't put their daughter under his nose with the intention of then turning around and going, you know, now we've got you. You've got to marry her, or we're gonna. And then because they got a lot of money out of it, and they did. And there was, but again, you know, if anyone's read book 1, people know I don't shy away from this. Like, this is not a fan's homage to a hero. I'm a historian before I'm a Charlie Chaplin fan. And people were really shocked when they read the one shot that I sold with the first campaign about his relationship with Stan Laurel. People have messaged me. Andy Smith said, I can't believe he was such an asshole to Stan Laurel. And I went, yeah. And I think Andy was shocked I'd written it that way, because I think, like many people, he thought, oh, she's going to paint him with rose-coloured spectacles. And I was like, but it really happened. And I want to show him as being human. I really, really want to show him as being human, because I think that too many times we don't realise that these people, in a lot of respects, were. Because there was for anyone that, you know, has read it or hasn't read it or whatever, the story goes that they were both worked together in London before they became massively famous. And Chaplin was offered this part on a play, and he didn't want it. And they gave it to Stan Laurel. Stan Laurel brought the house down with it. He was amazing. And Chaplin went, "Oh my God, they love him more than me. I want the part back." And because he was the big draw with Fred Karno's company in London, they just dropped Stan Laurel and gave him the part back.
Which he was the shy, bumbling one, right? Was
Yeah,
that Stan Laurel?
Yeah,
He was the thin one.
Yeah. So
Okay.
he actually, and Stan Laurel, to his absolute credit, never said a bad word about that event. He said, "I was the greatest comedian in the world's overstudy for a period of time, and then I became his understudy." But what's interesting about that relationship is that you can tell by the way they are with each other that Chaplin wants to be a one-man act, but Stan Laurel wants to be a double act. And that's where they part, because Stan Laurel wanted to be a pair, Chaplin didn't. And of course, we know he goes on to be part of one of the most famous pairs, Laurel and Hardy,
Right.
and the rest is history. But I wanted to really include that story because people didn't realise that they were friends, and I think that in itself is a really interesting story.
I've seen pictures of those two together. I think at that Norconian that I was telling you about last live stream. I think there's pictures of the two of them at that hotel together. So that's the thing I like the most about like these guys' lives, because you think like it was so long ago, and like when I think Laurel and Hardy, I think something a little bit more contemporary. I always think of Charlie Chaplin as like way before that. You know what I mean? And then for me, it was like the end of Tombstone, the movie, and they're talking about that Wyatt Earp, went all the way into the 20s. So he actually hung out with, those early film guys, the Western guys, and was friends with, I can't think of any of them off the top of my head, but that changes everything, because when I think of the Wild West, I think of that way before that, and then you realize how young like California really is, and how some of these guys that you think were just so predate these other things actually overlap. Some of these things overlap, and that's the thing I find interesting about like biographies and things like that. Like you said, you have those two characters, those two people interacting that, for me, I just thought they were from different timelines. You know what I mean? Like I didn't even know that they were in the same, timeline together. So yeah, I dig that stuff. So you want to get back into the campaign a little bit?
Yeah.
Visuals always help. I don't know if you know that.
They do. They very much do.
Okay, there's some artwork here that is this another cover, or what is this?
Yeah, that's so this wasn't meant to be a cover. So Peter Gilmore, as he does, sketches and doodles things, and he actually showed this to me last campaign. And I said, "Oh, I really want to use it, but I can't." And he said, "Why?" I said, "Because the circus is in book 2." And he said, "Oh," he went, "Oh, no worries." So we just left it to one side. The incredible Carl Stefan of Mary Boys was going to work on a Great Dictator cover for me. And right at the very last minute, we decided not to. And the reason being is because we was worried, and this wasn't actually just coming from me, this was something that came from the Chaplins as well. We was very worried about the backlash of it being perceived as supporting Nazism and all this sort of stuff. And was there any secret messages in it? And then obviously the whole CG thing being, brought into it and whatever, because that's how ridiculous people are.
Right.
So we decided we weren't going to do that, because obviously we have to be very careful with Indiegogo's terms and conditions. And I was worried that if they thought that if there was this connection, that the campaign could get pulled. Last thing we wanted. So I was sitting there thinking, well, I need another cover. I need to know what I want to give a bit of variety. And I went back to Peter and I said, "Do you still have that sketch you did like 2 years ago from the circus?" He went, "Yeah, I can find it somewhere." And then he showed me. I went, "Can you turn that into a cover?" He went, "Yeah, no problem." He went, "Give me a couple of days." Give him a couple of days. It was literally within 12 hours. He came to me with this, and I went, "Oh my God, it's incredible."
Yeah, this is one of my favorite pieces that you've been able to put together for your campaigns. I think his expression is great. I think those monkeys are completely out of their mind. This is just so fantastic.
Yeah, and it's exactly like he's obviously gone and watched the film, if not this clip. He's captured it absolutely perfectly. And the monkey blowing the raspberry was what sold me. I was like, I am done. That is it. So, and in typical, very efficient Peter Gilmore style, he had already put all the lettering and all the font and everything on it and sent it to me. And I was like, I love you. This is incredible. So that was 100%. And people have absolutely loved it. So I'm really, really happy about that. So we've got, so we had the Mickey cover, which is from Modern Times. And then we have the Peter Gilmore cover, which is from the circus. So we've got a real nice mix of sort of the background story and films. We've actually now
I'm a big fan of composition, and this cover is just perfection. So you said he dropped the logo in there as well?
Yeah,
Yeah, you could tell, like, this is all designed, like, the way the logo fits in there right by his foot and everything. This is really perfection. Just as far as the drawing itself and just the composition and everything. You got yourself a good piece here.
Well, you know what? Somebody said to me once, on my first campaign, how did you get like Billy Tucci and Donald DeLay and all the other people that Carl Stefan to work on your comic when you're a newbie? I went, well, it's kind of easy, really. You just ask them ask them how much they want for it, and then you agree or you disagree, or you agree to take the job or not. It's that simple. And it's like someone said to me in this campaign, how did you get Graham Nolan and Gabe? Well, I asked them. Like, it's no different. The worst they can say to you is no. I'm busy.
You know what I learned really early is my parents used to say, "Nothing ventured, nothing gained." So there's no harm in asking.
No, of course not. Of course not. And as far as I know, he will have to correct me. I'm not sure, but I think that my cover that Graham has done, I think that's the first cover he's done for another CG campaign that he hasn't had his name on. I can't remember if he's done a cover for any other campaign. And if that's
probably right, yeah.
If that's the case, wow, for someone like me with a non-comic professional background to be able to have these incredible people on this book, I'm humbled. Like there's no way I can say any different. And I always sing Peter Gilmore's praises because he is so consistent. He's so hardworking. He always does like all the logos and things on my products. He did the beautiful kit and caboodle boxes we had on the first campaign, which was the luxury boxes. He designed the vinyl that went on the front. He's doing the same thing for the second campaign. Like I can't thank everybody enough that's worked on this book. I really can't.
Yeah, Peter's a great guy too. I love live streaming with him. He's just very laid back. It's very funny. Okay, so wait a minute. Is this another cover here?
So there's a really funny story to this one. When you backed the first campaign, when we hit the 50k stretch goal, it was everybody got a mini version of the book, like little manga style book, and it was a silent variant. So it was printed, which made it had an effect on it, which made it look like the flicker of the film. It was on a lower grade paper. It had film reel down the side and it had no words. It was just a black and white. It was a silent variant. And again, Peter Gilmore did me this cover for it, which was, I just loved it. And again, I think he's got this thing about Chaplin being attacked by animals because this pigeon also it's obviously wants his pound of flesh. And when I knew we were going to, people said to me, you have to have book one on the campaign for book two. And I said at first, I think everyone's got it that wants it. They went, no, that you have to offer it. So I thought, right, to be a little bit different, we'll offer another cover. And then I just said to Peter, everybody loved that cover on book one for the silent variant. let's bring it back for the actual main cover for the reprint of book 1. He went, okay, and he coloured it. So that's the difference. It's now coloured, where in book 1 it was black and white. And it's just amazing. So this isn't a cover for book 2. This is the redone cover for book 1. And if you buy the Big Top Circus box tier, you get this included. So you get all of the book 2 covers and this book 1 cover included. You can buy this one separate if you wanted to. And there is also a tier that is the Peter Gilmore double pack, where you can get his cover for book 2 and his cover for book 1 at a reduced price if you buy them together.
Sweet. So are these, is book 2 going to be offered in the bookshop at the museum as well?
Yeah, we're in the process of sorting book 1 going in. We're just trying to find out what version it's going to be, and like what's the cover going to look like, and if it's going to be softback or hardback, because they tend to have like really luxury products in their gift shop. So it might be that they actually want it to be in the hardback copy, which I'm quite excited about, because I want one of them if they're going to do these beautiful hardback editions. And then again, when book 2 is done, that'll go there as well. There's loads of different places. I'm in the process at the moment of getting it into different places. So it's what we've also done is all of the stretch goals from book 1 are not going to be with the reprint. So Statistical Zeros Tramp Tales, which was at the back of book 1, because it was the 30k stretch goal, I believe, on the last campaign. That's not in the reprint of book 1. And the reason I thought that was fair was that was something that I gave to the backers as a thank you for getting us to there in the first place. So to just give it away this time round didn't really seem like a fair thing to do. So that's not in there. So that does make that different for you. Yeah, I read that. I think he's got a thing. I'm going to have a word with him.
I wanted to ask you, does the bookshop, do they give you a print run? So when you go to print these things, like kind of what they need as well, because you have your Kickstarter or you got your Indiegogo crowd, but then you have the bookstore as well. So how do you know your print run?
Well, at the moment, that's what we're trying to sort out, because normally they print everything in-house. And they normally print everything with the own distributors they have in Switzerland.
Oh, okay.
But they're also quite happy for me to sort of do the print run, then bill them for the print run, and then rather than I having to pay a percentage like I do with the Indiegogo, they pay me a percentage for how much gets sold.
Okay, so then it's kind of like 2 separate print runs. So you have your Indiegogo print run, and then you'll have your print run for the bookstore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it will be totally separate. I don't know how each of these are going to organise, because it's totally different to running, obviously, an Indiegogo. And also, I think it's going to be like a separate part of the contract, but that's all still being sorted out right now. And to be honest with you, I'm struggling to concentrate on more than one thing at a time at the moment.
Oh, it's hard. It's tough.
Well, I was like, when I launched on my own channel. Then I went on with Aaron, and bless his heart, Ethan messaged me and said, like, I will do something, but it's Mother's Day in the States. He'd obviously been with his family. So he went launch and I'll pick it up. So I was like, cool. So I was wired. There was no way I was going to sleep. And, he would have promoted it with or without me. I know he would have done, but he sent the link in the DM room. So after I'd gone on with Aaron, and I'm so wired, it was like 3:15 in the morning here, and I had to be up for work at like 7:30. And I was literally like, F it, I'm staying up all night. Jan told me I was mad. I am mad, I know that. But I also know that you have to get yourself out there. So Ethan drops the link, I go on. And then I think he told me off a little bit. It was quite funny, but he was like, you should have gone to bed. I was like, it's fine, I'm all right. I literally went to him on the live stream. I've got to go now. I've got to get ready for work. and I literally did. I shut the laptop down. I went, cleaned my teeth, like freshened up a bit, had a cup of coffee, and walked out the door. And I can tell you now, they were some of the best lessons I've ever taught with no sleep. So yeah, that was amusing, but it did knock me out for a couple of days.
Well, I was just gonna say, welcome to comics. I mean, I've worked all-nighters, to try to make deadlines and things like that. So this is a little different. I mean, this is promoting your book, but it's kind of the same level of dedication, But it's all that much better because it's your own product. You know what I mean? Like you're not staying up all night, for a corporation or something like that.
No, and I think as well, with something like this, I wasn't going to sleep anyway. I was going to be waking up every 5 minutes, checking out what I was doing. I might as well actually be up and earn my bread and butter. Do you know what I mean? Like actually doing something serious. But and the thing is, I know it sounds ridiculous, but people really respect you for doing that. They really respect that you would go to work on no sleep because you care so much about this product. You want it to do well. That you would actually, it's not just someone else's book and I'm just, putting a little bit of an interest in it. And you know how many backers have said to me, so many, we had no interest in Charlie Chaplin till you started talking about him on a live stream and then we wanted to learn more.
Yeah.
My job's done then, isn't it?
I was going to say that's also why this book is doing so well and will continue to do well, is because this isn't like the Charlie Chaplin estate went out and like we want to do a comic book and then they looked for talent to put it together and everything like that. This was somebody who really had interest in it, had passion for it, and commitment to pull it off to the best that it could possibly be. And that's creatively, and just as far as retail, like creating a product, that's the best place to be. So, I think, they were smart for letting you do this because it is a great product. And if they were to try to put this together themselves, I don't think it would have came out as good. Because to find those people, it's 1 in a million, Well,
this is why I always chuckle when people turn around and say, CG's misogynistic, CG doesn't like women, oh, really? I think if you actually look, women in CG in the last 2 weeks have had a pretty good run for it. I mean, Mandy smashed it on Gemshock. This book has been doing incredible. Reenie is amazing. That's the free to name off the top of my head. There are loads more, and the group's just.
My wife is my partner on this book. I mean, she's been there from the very beginning. Chrono Mechanics, Black and White. The thing is, like when you're younger, but when people talk like this in the industry, like there's no female representation in the comic book industry, it's a complete and utter lie. When I worked at DC, the president, Jeanette Kahn, female, you know what I mean? Like probably at least a third of my editors were female. Like this just doesn't exist. Writers, artists, you can name a bunch of them. It's just that they really don't want to be fair and they just want to kind of like find just facts that back their own beliefs or their own narratives for whatever reason. I don't know why. Like celebrate the women that are doing the books. You know what I mean? Like why don't you do that instead of like just saying there's not enough? And then there's this aspect as well. I just don't think there's as many women that have the interest in comics as there are men, and that's just fact. So there's always going to be less. It's not like there's a conspiracy that it's the old boy network and everybody's holding women back. That just has never been the case. I've never met one single person in this industry that's been like that. It's just absolutely absurd. When I hear those things, I'm like, where? Show me some facts. Like I've never seen. I mean, are there misogynist people in the industry? Yeah. Are there assholes in the industry? Well, of course. You know what I mean? But by and large, it just isn't what they say it is. So,
well, and if anyone ever watches me on a live stream, they'll realize like the other day, Billy and I were on Andy Smith show when he does the Andy and Dennis show. We literally hijacked that poor man's show talking about the First and Second World War and talking about weapons and talking about the fact it's the Queen's Jubilee. And I think Billy showed a clip of Land of Hope and Glory being played at Buckingham Palace with the Spitfires going over. And it's like, apart from wearing really nice dresses and wearing makeup, I'm a real boy inside. Like, I'm not, and also pretty much most of CG know that. And pretty much most of CG know that I'm a girly girl that also loves to just muck in with the boys. And nobody cares. Like, I was around CG for a year before people even knew I was a girl.
That's
because of the name, quite honestly. And it was just like, well, and it's just mad. And the other thing that I read the other day, which was really funny, someone turned around and went, why does nobody know her real name? It's a bit weird, isn't it? And then I'm like, I'd say my real name all the time. It's just that people just refer to me as this because for some bizarre reason, I don't know why, but people think, I tell them my real name, they go, no, you're just Charlie's to us. Like, we're just gonna, and I'm going, okay, if that's what you want to call me, that's fine. It's not a problem.
Yeah, I think it's a great brand. I mean, I've noticed, like it's the title of the books, Charlie's London and stuff like that. So it's like a novelist, how their names are usually really pronounced, and then the title of the story or the book that they're writing. And I think your branding is really, really good. And as far as girly girl, my daughter, she likes to play dress up. So she gets little skirts and dresses and things. And then she goes out in the deserts of California, with her gun friends, and they go up and shoot up the desert, with rifles and pistols and stuff like that. She just went out last weekend and showed me some pictures, of things. She's got some friends that are ex-military, and they go out and they just shoot up the desert. So, like, you can be whatever you want. That's what life says, right? You can be whatever you want. So, a girl can be very girly girl or very, very tough.
Yeah.
And they can be both, at the same time.
Well, this weekend, I'm off to, I'm going on a conference to Belgium to do with the First World War. And it was booked months before I planned on when I was going to launch my second campaign. And then I was like, oh no, this weekend's in the middle of my campaign being live. So if I live stream from there, or I'll live stream from there, it's fine. But that's all to do with the First World War. We're going to be walking around like trenches and battlefields for the weekend.
Yeah.
So that's, I know exactly what your daughter is saying, and I'm exactly the same. But it is what it is. I mean,
your interests are your interests.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter whether you're male or female. That's it, And in today's climate, you, for the most part, can be, unless the SJWs, totally infiltrate, and they're the only ones that are really going to stop you from doing these things, in the name of whatever their social justice, initiative is. I want to. Spirits Car says, do you remember that guy? And is this what you were talking about? Who kept trying to convince Charlie to change Chaplin into this is different, into a superhero in the chats, as it would make the book more expensive.
I was getting on the first one, I was getting people saying, no one's going to buy this. This is a rubbish idea. And then after it launched, people going, the only reason it's done really well is because of the channels that she's been on. Well, of course there's going to be an element of that. Exposure in whatever industry you're in is going to make you money,
right?
But it's what you do with that. I mean, and I'm always thankful. I will go, look, and anyone in the chat that see me on shows, it's true. I will go on a show where there's just one person in the chat watching. I will go on a show where there's over 1,000 people watching. As long as the host is gracious enough to have me on, I'll go where anyone asks me to, because it's not just about selling your product. I love to get to talk to people,
right?
Because the truth be told, we're a network. How would I have been able to communicate with so many amazing people if I hadn't had this community to do it? And, Mickey is not part of CG. He's 100% not anti-CG, but he's not around here all the time. And why is that? Why did I find him? Well, he's really good friends with Cole Stefan, who makes Mary Boys. And when I was looking for an artist, he said, I know this really amazing guy. So that's how that happened. So even Mickey, to an extent, has come to me through CG.
Yeah, Carl is amazing. He's an amazing talent. But I had somebody on a live stream, and they were kind of saying, like, the professionals stay to themselves, and like CG, there's like this hierarchy and things like that. The thing is, if anybody asks me to be on on this show, and I'll have them on, just send me a link to your work or your campaign and let me see it. I mean, if I don't think I've ever said no. But like you're saying, I mean, you're living proof. It's networking. And if you like it, if you genuinely like the people, you like the community, you like, what you're doing, then it's not work. You're just networking, you're hanging out. So it's not like you're like doing, like, there's some people that look at it like, oh, this is the necessary evil. I got to network. They look at it more like it's a mechanical thing. Like I look at my career and all the people that I met early on, it just happened. You know what I mean? Like you just hung out. Hey, can I buy you a beer? It was never like, hey, that's that guy, and I knew most of those Image guys, who became Image before we were anybody. You know what I mean? We just liked each other's company. Jim Lee, Rob Liefeld, Silvestri, all those guys. So it just is your group of people who you like to hang out with and who likes to hang out with you. And that's it. And like the professionals, I didn't know half those guys. I only knew Dan and Aaron Lepresti. So I knew Frege and I knew Lepresti, but I knew I hung out with Billy, but not really to this extent. And I worked with Andy Smith, but I never really talked to him too much. It was just a work thing. And so it turns out like we really gel. Like,
you do. That show is incredible. And, it's like when I was putting my campaign together and I was just chilling in the living room, we had some TV on in the background and we realized it was the Ricky Gervais show. And then all of a sudden come up on the screen, executive producer Dan Frager, so we're like, oh yeah, because we forgot he worked on series 2 and 3. Right. But it extends way beyond. I mean, just in the chat, the real Sean Cromwell was just said, my channel will be bottom of the monotone barrel, but I haven't asked. You can ask and I will come on your channel. If you want to have a chat, I can literally talk anyone's ears off about Chaplin. And you know what? If you don't believe me, put me to the test. Call my bluff. So I am more than happy. But yeah, I mean, it's like Billy. Billy and I literally clicked the minute we were first on the street. I love Billy so much. We have so much in common to talk about. And a couple of weeks ago, he actually said to me that he's found doing family history that he's got a relative that died in the First World War from his English branch of the family. And we looked him up, and I kid you not, Art, this is how all this stuff sometimes feels like it's written in the stars. His relative is buried in the next cemetery, which is 20 minutes away from my great-grandfather.
Wow. Interesting.
So I've said to him, when I go at the weekend, now I know, and I found where he is, he's really lucky because he's got a known grave. So many soldiers in the First World War didn't have known graves.
Right.
I've told him, look, Billy, I'll go and I'll take some pictures for you, and then, I'll send them to you. And he said, oh, that's really nice. And I was like, well, because it's, it's not, it goes beyond comics in so many ways. When COVID happened, a lot of us, myself included, relied on the people that we met on CG to keep our mental health stable because we couldn't see our families, we couldn't go out anywhere. Our reach to the outside world was live stream.
Yeah.
It was this. And, there's a part of me that will never forget that. Will never forget the people that believed in the first book. And, I've got people that are sending me messages all the time going, I can't back till payday. How long is the book going to be?
Yeah.
And I go, this book is shipping July 2023 and it will still be available. I don't care if you don't back till August 2023. Right. You do it when you want to do it. Well, you do what you can. And if that is just retweeting it, that is fantastic. That's
well, you know what? You mentioned the pandemic, and for me, like when I first started hanging out with CG and things like that, I was nervous. I'll admit, you know what I mean? Like, is this career suicide? That type of thing. But I believed in it. And so 3 years or whatever, later, we had this pandemic. And so, you hear like pencils down, retail stores are closing, all of the distribution, diamond, distributors are kind of, closing their doors, like all this craziness that was happening. And I told Ethan, I was like, for the first time in my career, I'm not scared. Like 40 years, just fear, like what's going to be my next job, all of this stuff. Because when you work freelance, it's every month. Like you're looking for work every month. Like there's nothing guaranteed. There's no long-term contracts. There's none of that. There's no real employment. It's just a month-to-month agreement, and that is a handshake, at best. And so, when this was happening, I was like, why am I not scared? Why am I feeling good? It's because we were independent of all those things. Like we are truly independent, not just like as far as we can make whatever we want, like create, like whatever our interests are, but we're also independent of that structure, that retail structure, that distribution structure, all of that. So we're going right to the consumer. And so these books were, we were doing great. You know what I mean? Like the rest of the industry is like pencils down and it's frozen, not moving at all. And we're progressing. And that is a great place to be. That is an amazing place. And I keep pinching myself, like, how the hell did this even happen? You know what I mean? Because it wasn't like it was like when we were talking about networking. It just kind of happened. There were like-minded guys people that just hung out, and we went on each other's show, and then we realized that if we were going to contribute in a way like Ethan was, then we need to build our channels, and we need to try to, get a bigger voice so that we can not only help ourselves, but that we can help other people as well. And nobody, I don't know if you've experienced the same thing, but nobody in this group has asked, what are you willing to do for me? Right? It's never like, I'll go on your show, but you have to give me XYZ, or like there any kind of payment or any kind of discussion of anything like that. It's always just like, yeah, if I have time, I'll come on. It was always more just that. And I've never experienced anything like that. And also, I know that's why Marvel and DC will never be able to do this as well, because they'll have to pay people. There's never going to be this kind of, everybody just hanging out, everybody just willing to help each other in this way, in that industry. It just isn't going to happen. And I think it's just kind of, it's the forefathers. It's like somebody either had a main overview, or this was just a complete and utter accident, but it freaking works, man. It really does work.
And it's very different as well. I mean, the landscape is changing all the time. And that doesn't mean, weirdly, the landscape changes all the time. But if you're consistent, that's the only thing that shouldn't change all the time. So if you make sure that what you're saying, you stick to your values, no matter what happens, that you make sure you're bringing out consistently good products. You treat everybody with good customer service. You don't act like you're too good to, you're too good to hang out with people. I mean, that's why I say I'll go on anybody's channel. Like, at the end of the day, I've had the backlash. The minute you end up in like Ethan's circle, when you end up on his show, you do get backlash from people, especially if you've come from the chat. But as I've just said, I'll go on his show one day, and then I'll go on a show of somebody that's got like one person watching. I don't care. I want to talk to people. It's not about where I am or what I'm doing. And that's the same with like anybody. I've reached out and DM'd loads of people about doing shows, from like next week being on loads more shows than I have been, and people coming on my channel. Like, and I've always said to people, if you DM me and I don't respond, it might be that we don't follow each other. So just make sure that you you public message me to follow you, and then I'll follow you back, and I'll get your message, and we'll sort something out. Some of the best chats I've had and some of the best shows I've ever been on is when nobody's been watching, but it could have just been a hangout, but it's been incredible. And that's what's the most important thing, is just make sure people know that you're genuine. make sure people know that you really love what you're doing, and you don't, and always be consistent, because this community is smart, and if you slip up, they will know that you're lying. You spend 90% of your time on one of these things, or tweets that are out there forever, videos that don't disappear. If you say something and contradict yourself, someone is going to find it. So stick, be consistent, love your fan base, love people that you communicate with. Always make yourself as open to help people as they help you, and you'll be fine. It is that simple.
Well, it's also like you and I, just for this show. I mean, this is our third try to get to hang out. So it also takes, like you said, consistency, and just not take it personal. Like I had to cancel, then you had to cancel, and then here we are. So it's being flexible and not getting butthurt. I do know that some people, I think their expectations are really high. So when you say, I can't do anything this week, but can we do it next week? It's never personal. It just means that we're really busy at that moment in time. So no one should ever take those things personal.
No, yours was that you said on the beginning of the stream that you had, friends to stay. That's real life stuff. That's so important. Mine, when I had to reschedule, was because I had stuff going on at work and I had to work late. By the time I got home, it wasn't going to work with the stream. But that's another thing. People know that about us. They know that we have lives away from it, and they massively respect the fact that we do everything we can. I mean, the amount of people that were so great with the first book, because I was shipping in the evening. I was coming home from work. The packages I'd packaged up the night before, I was taking them straight to the post office. And, it took a little bit longer than I would have wanted it to. But people were so good because they understood that I was getting these out as quick as I could, as much as I could. And, my first book was late, but everyone said to me, we didn't care because you kept us updated. You showed us pictures of the boxes of the books. You showed us pictures of, the different things that came in. You showed us pictures of packages going out, art that was being made. So, just be really honest with people. Be transparent. Don't be scared to say these things. Don't be scared to tell people, because the thing they hate more is when you don't talk to them.
Yeah, the worst thing is not knowing, you're in the dark and you just don't know. I mean, that was kind of like some of the Red Rooster situation. And then Spirits Car brings up Critias. And, Critias some people aren't honorable, period. They just aren't. And so the one thing is, like we do, and we just do it because of our integrity. Like the money that has come in from Black and White 2, Man versus Machine, that's in an account. We don't touch that. That's not our money yet, because we have expenses and we have all this stuff. So we don't live off that money.
No.
And so what Critias did is for whatever reason, he didn't have a day job, or he didn't have anything else that he was making money, which he should have, because he was, I'm sorry, if you're a writer, there's a lot less time invested in putting these books together than an artist. So writing, I think you could very easily have a day job. Is it hard? Well, of course it's going to be a little tough, but you can do it. Where an artist, it's a lot harder. And so what Critias did is he got lazy, and they started living off that money that they were bringing in on Indiegogo. And oh my gosh, it was never his money. You just don't do that. But I think that people that have questionable morality and business ethics and things like that can do these things. And are there going to be people like that? Yeah, but try not. I think we recovered from it, but just try not to judge the entire CG based on one person's actions.
I think you're right. And I don't really know much of what went on with the Critias stuff, because that was very much when I was very new to CG. I mean, I know about it all now, but I wasn't really massively around. But the one thing that I think, from my point of view with my campaign, was it's really, I say this to everybody that's doing this for the first time, and this is from the heart, and please take what I'm saying to be right. When you are putting your campaigns together, you need to know the weights of things. And the reason I say that is because you only have to, it must be the same in the States as in the UK. You only have to go over by a certain amount of weight, you put yourself into the next bracket of pricing, and then you could screw your campaign because you can end up paying out extra in shipping. And it's happened to the best of us. And I just say, like, it's like, for example, I'm going to be in a much better position book 2 than I was in book 1 with that, because I now know what roughly it's going to weigh. I know what I'm going to be doing, and then I knew what to charge. And the horrible thing was, nobody wants to charge the prices that they've charged for postage. The price I had to include, and this is things you have to think about, and again, things you don't know until you've done it. I know from the post office here in the UK, they're increasing their prices by 5%.
They're changing, yeah. Yep.
In January. I've had to already charge on the campaign that increase, because by the time the book goes out in July, August 2023, that increase will be in. And it's not that I'm making any money out of the postage. God knows I'm not. It is literally because, how am I going to get this to you? And this time we've charged more. We really didn't want to, but we've charged it so that all packages will be tracked. Because on the first campaign, we didn't offer that. And I had a lot of people say, like, can we have the tracking? And I'd explain it. There wasn't a single person that minded it was standard delivery. But I didn't like it. I was like, no. I get my packages from the States tracked.
It makes a little bit more work for you too, because if you could give them the tracking, then they can do the homework themselves, versus you having to go through all of the list of backers and doing all that, which is what, my wife Pamela does. And I mean, like you said, you learn as these things go along. But shipping has always been, it's always been, and it's probably always going to be a problem with these kind of crowd funds, unless I think it has to come from the platform themselves. Unless they have some kind of like way to go, okay, this is Europe, this is like Germany, France, England, all these different places. This is Mexico, this is Canada, this is the US, and also different locations, because like Australia, man, there's like 2 or 3 different prices to ship things to Australia.
Well, yeah, I mean, one thing I wanted to do on this campaign, and I did play around with seeing if I could do it. So, when you have the section where you add your perks, not your perks, your add-on tiers, I really, really wanted to have it so that people could go through the add-ons and they could choose the type of postage they wanted. So whether they were happy to have it economy, which like took up a couple of weeks, or they had it standard, or they had it tracked, and then they had control over how much they spent. And I started to do it. And then as I was going through, I realized I had to add it for every single tier, then every single add-on, every single perk. And I was like, this is going to be so confusing to ship. So I just went, okay, do you know what? I'll put down for the tracked. And if anyone speaks to me about the prices of postage, we can have a conversation and I can explain to them. And I understand that that's going to put people off backing. And the sad thing with my campaign is I'm not allowed to offer digital. It's in my contract. I can't. I am in the process, though, of speaking to the chaplains about if that can be negotiated, because the real problem with digital was the copywriting and the piracy.
Yeah.
Well, now book 1's been out in the ether for so long, someone's going to scan all those pages and do it anyway. It is going to be a thing. So I really want to offer book 1, like a book 1 digital tier now, where people can literally just buy it now and read it, which would be great, getting them ready for book 2. And then book 2 obviously goes out when it's available. But there's a bit of backwards and forwards about that. So my Indiegogo customers will be kept informed if I do manage to add a digital tier. And I know there was a lot of people in book 1 that said we really wish there was a digital tier because postage is so much. And I really
it's very tempting. It's very tempting as being a creative person, to do it, because when you see some of the shipping costs and stuff like that, you're just thinking like, well, this would be a lot easier, and also in a way easier for us, because we don't have to have that as we don't have to warehouse that stuff. You know, I don't know how much space you guys have at your place, but you know, by the time Black and White 2 has everything in, I'm not going to have much of a garage left. And also, we have some of the rooms here upstairs that we have the smaller stuff, like we just had these made. Also, you guys, we're getting all kinds of cool stuff made. But we have the Black and White pins here. They
are really very cool.
Yeah, they're very, very cool. So that was the 100K stretch goal, and we have ordered the patches now, the black and white patches, and the stickers, I think. So we have the Inco sticker, the black and white sticker, the die cut sticker for black and white on order now. So I'll be sharing those very, very soon. So I'm gonna wait. The dog has a noisy toy. Hold on.
Oh, that's all right. That's fine. But yeah, I mean, it is. I will say, I think Chrono Mechanics was one of the first books that I physically got with all the little bits and pieces in it, like the patches and stuff, where gave me the idea to have a patch in mine. Like, seriously, I was like, oh, this is so cool. And I think a CG standard is Sticker Mule. I don't know if you use them, Art, but Sticker Mule.
I don't think we are this time out. Yeah.
They have 3 different places that they post from. One of them is here in the UK. So getting their stuff is so easy. And all the anyone that backed in the chat, the little round Charlie's London stickers that you got on the front of the package, so you knew that it was from me, they were all from Sticker Mule. The anyone that got the kit and caboodle box, all the little beautiful little bits and pieces in there, they were all from Sticker Mule. So they're very, very much, they do great pin badges, magnets, so definitely like that.
Yeah, Pamela has found some good vendors, and so she's pretty loyal to them. I do think she has tried or has contacted Sticker Mule. I'm just not sure really why we're not using them, but I think it's probably price, and she's used to the vendors that we've been using at this point. So there's a lot of confidence. So one of the thing is, like, whenever you try a new vendor out, there's always like, are you going to get stuff done on time? Is it going to look good? Things like that. So like, even like the black and white pins, sadly, we've been looking for American companies. We don't want to really use China, even though it's very tempting because the prices are really good. So Pamela found an American company that makes these pins, but they actually, their manufacturing is all China. So when she found that out, we found it out the hard way, because they sent, I think we had 2,500 of them made. So they sent half of them, the order, and then we still haven't got the second half. So when she called about the details, they said, they slipped up and said, oh, well, we haven't got them back from China yet. And then Pamela she just dug in. No. Yeah, she was like, what? You said you're an American company, whatever. You don't advertise this. You should advertise this, because there's a lot of people that don't really want to support China, at least to the extent, that we have in the past. So even when you try to do the right thing, sometimes it's a little tough. But I'm going to wrap this up. It's been a blast. You're just like good friends. I could talk to you all day. It's
I know. Well, still one of my favorite streams I've done is when you and I, we started doing a stream like this, and then I think we went off on a tangent for an hour about music and was just talking about the Beatles for like forever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could, anytime you want anyone back to have a chat, where I am, 100%.
Definitely. And Charlie's London's new book, the link is in the description, so go back it. How long has the campaign going? You're like halfway?
No, we're only
the first week.
Yeah, so we're on day 50. So we've got 52 days left. 52 days left. So
you're doing really, really well. Let me hit refresh real quick. 187 backers and 52 days left. I didn't play the video, but we got to get you back on. I'll play the video then. And and yeah, so go back that. And Black and White Volume 2, Man versus Machine, is still in demand. So please go back that, check that out. We are getting things manufactured right now. So this is Volume 1 with the second printing. We went back to press on this. We sold out of the original, and it's got the new cover on it by myself with Kyle Ritter's colors. Let me do this. Let me do this way. Let's be professional here. So it came out fantastic. So yeah, and like I said, we're having things manufactured now. So we're trying to get because oh my gosh, I think the other two campaigns we kind of waited towards the end to get all the manufacturing done, and it's too much stress. So Pamela is being smart this time, so she's having things kind of made as we go along.
That's what we said we're going to do, because if anyone that got the first book knows that everything came in these A4 packages, and the prints were in there, and the postcards and stuff. And Jan and I spent days, not hours, days putting these things all together. So we said, right, this time round, now we know what our stretch goals are going to be. We're going to start ordering them in the next couple of weeks and bagging them up. Yeah, I know the campaign isn't ready to ship till July 2023, but I can keep all that stuff in our storage unit until it's ready to go, and then bring it all back in and start fulfilling.
Right.
You're 100% right, Art. 100%.
So you guys, when you see things in bags like this, those were all put in by a human being, and it all takes hours. So my wife is perfect. She handles all the administrative stuff. Really, she runs the studio, Hack Studios. And then she's my creative partner as well. She is just fantastic with dialogue. Like we don't necessarily brainstorm story together, like plot. That's usually me. But character and just putting voices in these people's mouth, she's fantastic at that. So we're probably going to be doing some creative powwowing soon. We got a pretty good lump sum of black and white pages done now. So we have those at the colorist, and then we can finalize the dialogue and get those off to get those pages lettered as well. So all these little things help, as you get to the countdown of the final, shipping and all that other stuff. So anyways, you guys, and thank you to Texas Mofo for the smash the button. Please, it does help. I always forget all that business stuff, but I do.
Yeah, me as well.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a blast, a continued success, and we'll see you in the CG live streams. All right. Take care, you guys.